Welcome to the Why Not You podcast, where our goal is to inspire, teach, and elevate your personal journey. Our heart-centered guests love sharing some of their life-changing aha moments, hoping that it might be of benefit to you. Welcome to the Why Not You podcast. We have a special guest with us today. His name is Ben Andrews. And Ben comes to us from the Portland, Oregon area, where he has been a professional athlete, a best-selling author, a real estate professional, and much, much more. So welcome, Ben, and thank you for taking time out of your schedule to be with us today.
Good to see you, Glenn.
Gosh, it's only been a couple of weeks ago that we saw each other in Phoenix at a seminar, and great to see you here on the podcast today.
Good to see you, too.
Before we get started, tell us a little bit about what it was like for you growing up in the Andrews household.
It was like a Norman Rockwell painting, honestly. It was, we didn't have a lot, but we had a lot of love, and that's enough to get you around the tough stuff. But very, very close-knit family. My mom and dad created a pretty magical childhood for my brother and I. We didn't know that we didn't have much because we had so much love, and we just did a lot together. Games, board games, going on walks, going up to the school and playing ball. Just it's like a Norman Rockwell painting. It was magical.
Awesome. Well, what did your parents do to make a living?
Sure. My mom was a house cleaner, so she cleaned the houses of many of my classmates around town. My dad made cans, so when you go to the store and you buy a can of peaches, green beans, tuna, my dad was the person that made the can for that in a manufacturing plant.
You know, we kind of live in an Instagram world right now, and everyone thinks that everything's hunky-dory and perfect in every sense of the word, and that's just not the truth, is it?
Not even close, no.
I mean, here you are, an author, a speaker, a coach, a mentor, a professional athlete, got your own business, and it wasn't always that way. I want to talk about that challenge a little bit later, but let's circle back and talk about your high school experience, Ben. Can you share that with us?
Sure. I was a great basketball player, good runner. And I had one race my senior year of high school that improved 14 seconds at the state meet, ended up beating the second and third place people in the United States. And the track and field coach at the University of Oregon said, Ben, I don't know who you are, but one hell of a race. I said, well, I don't know who you are, but thank you. And ultimately he said, yeah, I'm prepared to give you a full ride scholarship to the University of Oregon. And I said, well, I appreciate that, but I'm a basketball player. And he said something that changed my life. He said, you might have woke up a basketball player, but you're going to bed tonight as a runner. Now, over the next couple of weeks of my junior year of high school, and then into my senior years, I'm being recruited by the University of Oregon. It was discovered that our basketball coach had put a lot of us in fundamentals or remedial classes so that we didn't have a big homework load. And so when I shifted from being a basketball player and something that he was going to pad and cover up going into college, I didn't have that protection anymore. And so the University of Oregon discovered that I was short 3 classes and a full year of math. So my last 4 months of my 4th year of high school, my first senior year, I did those 3 classes. I did a full year of math, only for the NCAA to say, sorry, that's not enough. So I had the option to go to a community college, but I would have lost 2 years of eligibility and a ton of money to go to the University of Oregon. So I opted to go back to high school for a 5th year, not lose any eligibility. And a 5th year of high school sucks. It sucks a lot worse when the storms of life come at you.
Well, let's talk about some of those storms, because I don't think people talk about the challenge. They don't talk about the adversity. And I know you had a significant challenge in that 5th year.
It was getting arrested it's bizarre to even put into words what happened to me. But I had a girl accuse me of some inappropriate actions, which I did not do. Unfortunately, I was so young and naive in the inner workings of relationships. I didn't know that my coach, who had really almost forced this girl upon me, was trying to get her away from him because they were in an inappropriate relationship. And so when she had made these accusations of unwanted sexual advances, I didn't know her and I walking down the hall or making out in a hall closet that she would use this time together as fire later to accuse me of something. But that, I will say, started a 30-year mental sentence. Just being accused of something horrific can last with you a lot longer than any trial or sentence or anything a judge is going to put on you. I was found not guilty, but that set the stage for me having a lot of insecurities, really sheltering who I surrounded myself with, who I let into my world, and really stunted me for a long time because I was petrified of being accused of anything, petrified of people thinking I'm a monster, and just really a lot of self-doubt of who Ben Andrews was. And I remember coming back from a run, my 5th year of high school, and my mom was just, all the color was from her face. My brother was sitting on the couch, just stunned. It was a Sunday afternoon. And my mom said, the police called and they want you to come downtown for questioning. They won't tell me what it's about because you're over 18. And I said, well, I don't know what it's about. What are you talking about? And we saw an attorney. The attorney said, this is nothing. You have nothing to worry about. So we went about our lives as if nothing's happening. And about 9 weeks later, after Christmas break in January, I was arrested at school and kind of paraded through the main parts of the school in handcuffs. Everyone saw me as, the accused. I did have a security guard who took me out of class because he said, let's not make a scene. So he went to get me and he pulled me to the back of the school. He was a former NFL player, was not very educated, even though he went to college. He was not very educated, but he was a big, big, big man with a bigger heart. And he took me out to the back of the school and he said, what do you see out there? What do you see? And I said, well, I see a football field. I see a track stadium. He goes, no, you pick one. What do you see? And I said, I see a track. He said, well, I see a football stadium because I played football. And so you have to tell yourself who you are because you're about to go through something you have no idea how to counter. And it was the first time I had ever even entered the personal development world. And he poured into me for 15 minutes where his walkie-talkie kept going off and the school office was like, Robert, you've got to come up with Ben. You've got to come up. The police are waiting. And he just screamed at me, He goes, Ben, I see greatness in you. I see greatness. You are a champion. You are he just loved on me. And it was exactly what I needed to hear because when I went downtown and was booked and stripped and everything that goes along with that, those words set in that I am a champion. I am okay. I am a good person. I just kept talking to myself for hours and hours and hours and hours. And that was not the worst part because once I got out, that's when we had to defend this. It was brutal.
Well, you were actually chained up and in lock and key and with a bunch of, I think it was like 60 or 65 other people. And, Ben, I have a very similar situation that happened to me, and I know how embarrassing that is. I was in a different country, and that happened to me. And very, very few people know about it, but I totally understand a lot of the different thoughts and feelings and whatnot that went through your mind at that point in time. And
I'm sorry you went through that.
Well, it was a turning point for me as well. And, but it wasn't fun going through the experience. That's for sure.
No. I don't want to make light of it, but I remember I had on my senior picture sweater that I had worn for my senior pictures. It's this green V-neck sweater. And I remember my mom worked a couple extra houses to clean to buy me this sweater it was Norsport. It was a Nordstrom brand. And Mama said, we might not have much, but you're going to go to school cute. And anyway, I had this on the same day I got booked and had my mugshot. And I remember taking it off as I was getting booked and thought, this is not the day. This is not the place to look cute. And I remember when I got home, my brother said, Ben, you don't do anything halfway, do you? I'm so impressed by you. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, he's standing next to my senior picture. And he said, you wore the same outfit for your senior picture as you did for your mugshot. Your consistency is unbelievable. And it was a great moment of just, we're still going to rub on each other and talk some trash to one another. And humor is going to get us through this.
Yeah, that's great. Well, when you're sitting down in, I would assume, the jail or the prison, whichever one it was that you were ushered into, and you said that you looked at the people's eyes that were there. Tell us a little bit about what you saw in those eyes of the people that were there.
There was a void of any hope. It was the first time in my life I've ever seen two people together without hope. You see some people walking around downtown that are not doing well, but every single one of them had no hope. And I remember what Robert had told me. I remembered what my mom told me every other day growing up. Ben, 1 year from today, this is all going to be different. 1 year from today, this bad situation is going to be better. And as I was looking at these people, I was almost talking myself out of going in that direction. I'm going to be okay. I'm not going to lose hope. I am going to be okay a year from now. But it was the first time I'd ever felt the emotion of empathy. I just felt empathy for these people that, I got my one call from my mom, and my mom said, I don't care what you do, hold it, do not use the bathroom, do not drink any water so you don't have to use the bathroom. Because she knew what could happen in a bathroom in prison. And some of these people are 70, 60 years old. Who do they have to call? It was very sad to see the state of them emotionally.
One of the guys sitting next to you, said that he was observing you and watching you. And if I can kind of paraphrase here a little bit, he said, "You don't belong here. What happened?" And gave you some really, really cool advice.
Yeah. I honestly believe he was an angel. I'm a man of faith. And I believe I was put next to him for him to continue to talk to me and keep me focused. He told me, I've been watching you. You don't belong here. You don't belong here. And he said, Ben, as you leave, I'm getting off of the chain gang now. He says, keep good people around you that want to see the best for you and the best in you. And I remember almost like nodding my head, like, what did you just say? Because you look as strung out and hopeless as any of these people. And he said it again. He said, you got to keep people around you that want to see the better version of you. Because if you don't, you're going to end up with me. And it was a moment of clarity for me to know that, okay, I can't play an active role in this recovery, if you will, of my next chapter of my life. I got to keep the right people around me so that I am not distracted and I'm not pulled down. I remember in church one time growing up, they had this really, really strong person. He was a speaker. He had come into our church to speak, and he was trying to pull kids up off of the floor, up onto this table. And it was hard for him to do it. And then he got up on the table and he had his arms out. We were able to pull him down. Now, he might have been acting a little bit, but we were able to get him off the table. And he said, the illustration is, it's a lot easier for people to pull you down than it is for you to pull people up. So you have to be in a good spot mentally, emotionally, spiritually, that you cannot be pulled down by others. And when this gentleman on the bus, on the chain gang had said this to me, I remembered that moment. I thought, okay, this is what he's talking about. I gotta be the person that I can't be pulled down. I gotta keep other people around me that want to see the best in me.
And how old were you at this point, Ben? You said it was the fifth year of your high school experience. Were you 18, 19 years old?
I was 18. And unfortunately, I was 3 years and 2 days older than this girl who had made the accusations, who had gone on to say, I'm sorry, Ben, I didn't know this would happen. I just wanted your attention. We had notes from her. We had handwriting forensics that would, put her handwriting against stuff that she wrote in school, and it was confirmed it was from her. We had voicemails from her. Ben, I'm so sorry. I want to be your friend. But because I was more than 3 years older than her, this just went to the grand jury. It wasn't her word against mine anymore. It was the state making me out to be a monster. And so had I been born a week earlier, it would have just gone away. But I will say it was the making of the man. I got to see the power of family. I got to see my dad specifically just fall on his own sword and say, we're going to get through this. I'm going to lead this family through this emotionally. And my mom got into real estate and forever changed the fortunes of our family.
Well, it's a dramatic story, and I know the pain and the angst of that whole process. And I do believe that those events happen in our lives to kind of like a fork in the road,
Right.
And you have to make a choice. And you definitely made a choice. And your father said something to you when you got home that day after they had posted bail and whatnot that really means a lot to you. Can you share that with our folks today?
He's saying so much. First of all, he just looked at me in the eye and he said, I know who you are. I know who you're not, but I know who you are. And that is going to be the kind of our slogan going forward. People can say anything they want about you. And then he pulled us all together and he said, you don't always get what you pray for, but you pray for what you get. And I remember when he said that, just this weight came over me, left me, I should say. And it was like, okay, this is where we're going. We're going to pray through it. And none of us asked for this, but this is what we've got. And the only thing we can do is pray through it and hope for the best and act our best going through it so we don't pull anyone else down around us.
Well, let's transition. Ben, obviously you worked through that, and you, with the love and the help and the prayers of your family, you got through that. You were acquitted. And then a new chapter started for you, and you actually did start running for the Oregon Ducks. And tell us a little bit about that and the Olympic trials and all that kind of stuff. That's really cool.
Sure. Yeah, it was, it's not all it could have been because I had some deep wounds emotionally trying to figure out who I was. But I was a kid in a candy store every single day. I was training with the best track and field facility in the world, on the best team in the United States. And I was one of the top milers in the nation. And to look back at that, knowing what I had gone through, I'm not sure I would have been the athlete I would have. I think I would have been a little better athlete, but being the person became a much more well-rounded person, had empathy for others, enjoyed the curiosity because it was stripped from me on that 5th year. And then, of course, getting arrested, everything was in question. Am I even going to be able to go to Oregon? And so I became very curious. Forrest Gump came out at the same time. And so I became this mini Forrest Gump that said, I'm going to experience everything I can. Every opportunity that comes at me, I'm going to embrace and tackle and get everything I can out of it. And I did that all through college. And I got to meet Bill Bowerman, the co-founder of Nike, and go to his house and have lunch, and became friends with one of the most wealthy people in the world, one of the most powerful people in all of Oregon. The last pair of shoes that Bill Bowerman made were from a mold of my feet for me. And you can't make this stuff up. It's 2, 3, 4 years prior than that, I was facing 15 or 5 to 15 years in prison. So just the rich experiences, getting everything out of it that I could.
Well, one of our mentors, and I say it often, one of our mentors, Jim Rohn, he said, who you spend time with matters. And it's so true.
Yeah.
And there's a prime example of just who you spent time with and the decisions that you made based on those experiences, what a difference it made.
Right. And, I didn't have the college experience that most people have. One, I was an athlete, so you don't get to do as much as most people because you've got practice, you've got all this stuff going on. But one of the things that stood out to me was I was accused by someone a couple years prior. And so I was never going to put myself in a situation to where someone could say something about me again. So I didn't drink. Still have never drank in my life. I wasn't going to be at parties where people were drunk. And so when my teammates would go out, it might be 10, 12 guys just hanging out together drinking. I wouldn't go. or I would just abruptly leave. And so I led a noisy loneliness because I was around all these people, but I wasn't really partaking in them. And I was almost gravitated towards adults who I knew were on a different path, a different journey, because I didn't want to be associated with anyone who, could be accused of anything else.
Well, Ben, you said that you had a God whisper when you were trying out for the Olympic team, and a mentor, a coach, said something to you, and wondered if you could share that a little bit, because you were on a path, you were on a dream, a journey that was significant, that was real, that you were good at, and yet there was a shift. And I think a lot of times we worry about, hey, we're doing good things, we're on the right path, but yet we don't listen to that little God whisper, if you will.
Sure.
Can you share that?
Yeah, the reason my path took a turn is because I wasn't fast enough. I was good, but I was too concerned about the experience and not focused on the task. And so, if I was to go do a 8-mile run at a certain pace for training, I would do it. But if maybe the world record holder is in town and he's doing a 10-mile run at this pace, I'm going to go experience that because I'm channeling Forrest Gump and I'm going to get everything out of this that I can. And so I didn't run as well as I could have. I ran with ASICs for a year after college. I had a great year, but not a phenomenal year. And so I got a job at a credit union. I was working and coaching a few people, very, offhandedly emailing workouts from here and there. And I heard this God whisper of, you're not done yet. This dream is not done yet. And you don't have many of those. I don't have many of those, I should say. And whenever I do get them, I listen to them and I pay attention to them. And this one was very specific of, you still have the dream, you have to pursue it. And so I went after it. And I had, through, I don't know what, came across a gentleman who was my first client coaching him on a 5K. He's just running a 5K at his daughter's school. He wants to beat his friend. And he ended up, through a myriad of circumstances, figuring out what I was doing. I was trying to get as many clients as I can so that I could work part-time at the bank and train as full-time as I could for the Olympics. And I'd never talked to him. It was all email. And he sent me $1,000 one month. He said, I want to help your training. I messaged him back. I said, no, I don't need additional support this time. Anyway, over the course of a couple of months, he asked me for my pay stub. I thought, man, this crazy guy, what's he doing? Never talked to him. And I was at dinner one night with my dad, and just offhandedly, as we're parting ways, driving home separately, I told him, I said, hey, Dad, there's this guy that keeps sending me money and I keep blowing him off, but he asked me for a pay stub. Don't you think that's weird? And he said, well, what's it for? And he said, well, he wants to help me with my training. And he said, have you been praying for your training? I said, well, yeah. And I feel like I'm not done yet. And he said, well, then got to do it. Like you have to. So I sent this gentleman my pay stub, and a week later, I got a registered letter in the mail and it said, I, Ben Andrews, agree to accept. And it was exactly what I made a month at the bank. By accepting this money, I will quit my job and train as hard and smart as I can for the 2004 Olympic trials. And I will find a creative way to pay this forward to someone else in the future. And I thought, okay, this stranger who I've never talked to on the phone is going to effectively give me $300,000. Yeah, right. So the next month, check came in. Interesting. Next month, right on the first, next check comes in. And then a couple days later, I get this call at my desk, and it's never talked to him before. It's got this beautiful Southern accent, Midwest accent. Man, this is so-and-so. And, we got ourselves a contractual agreement. What the hell you doing at work, boy? And I said, oh my gosh, you're real. And he said, so's that damn money I'm sending you. What the hell are you doing at work? You call your boss and tell him you're done. So I did. I went and told my boss I'm quitting, and I got this guy that's giving me money. And she said, well, you're nuts. Good luck with that. And this guy supported me for 5 years. Unbelievable. And he was paying for the gold medal plan. So we would have these 10 o'clock phone calls on Tuesdays. And our 10 o'clock phone calls turned into him mentoring me and him turning me on to Jim Rohn, Zig Ziglar, sending me tapes, having me listen to them and report back to him on what I learned. And I mean, I could write a book just on, Tuesdays with Maury, but it would be Tuesdays with his name. Unbelievable. And I asked him one day, I said, why are you doing this for me? And he said, Ben, don't think you're anything special. I'm doing it for you and a few others. I said, how can you afford that? He said, well, I'm worth a ton of money. That's how I can afford it. And he said, and this is fascinating. He said, Ben, I got so focused on making money that I became addicted to it. And so the only way for me to strip my addiction is to give it away. And I don't give it away to charities. The way I'm wired, the way I was designed, I want to see the fruits of my giving. And so I've got you and I've got 3 others, and I give away a boatload of money every year. So I got to learn empathy from the gentleman on the chain gang. I got to experience and see philanthropy through a fascinating example through my mentor. And he got to see me grow up.
Wow, that's amazing. There's so many great people in the world. And he was basically saying, pay it forward. And that's what you did.
Yeah.
You created a nonprofit. You have trained thousands and thousands of people around the world.
Yeah.
And you have paid it forward, my friend.
Thank you. Yeah, I have. I've not to the same extent, but I've got money in my pocket that I just give away, and I look for it every week. I put $100 in my pocket, 520s every Monday, and I'm going to find either one person or 520s or 250s or something, but I'm going to find someone who needs it. It really keeps my head on a swivel looking for it and looking for a need. And I think, especially coming out of a pandemic, it's more fun because there's who needs it more, because everybody's struggling. A couple years ago, I was walking through a parking lot by my office, and this kid is walking by, a young African-American kid, and, cornrows, saggy pants. And I said, how are you doing today? He says, with an attitude. And I said, my brother, it's 8:30 on Monday. Like, how's your week going to go? And he goes, man, what the hell's your problem? Man, get away from me. And I said, well, I don't have a problem. And he goes, oh, because you're a rich man, right? And he just started going off on me. And I said, no, I'm not a rich man, but I'm going to go to work today. I'm going to have a good day because I'm deciding to have a good day. So we're having this battle in the parking lot. And he said, you know what? I got a job interview today. And he points. He goes, I got a job interview right over there at Verizon. I said, well, is that what you're wearing? And he said, yeah, that's what I'm wearing. I said, well, I don't think you're going to get the job because you don't look like you want the job. And without any attitude, this one tear just fell down and very calmly said, man, this is the best stuff I've got. I knew I had that $100 in my wallet because it was Monday. And we have a Target in our parking lot. And I said, you know what, why don't we go up to Target and shop? So we went to Target. It's $107. We got pants, red belt. Like, he looked like a Verizon poster boy. And then I went to Verizon, where I've got, 9 or 10 lines at the time. And I said, hey, you got a guy coming in here at 11:30. If he doesn't get the job, I'm going to Sprint. Never tell him that I was here. And he said, and this is a guy that I deal with a lot. He goes, well, Ben, what's going on? I said, give him the job. And this kid still works there 5 years later. He still works there. Doesn't know what I did other than helped him get his outfit dialed in. But that's what we should be doing is looking for ways to not make an impact, but change somebody's perception, somebody's experience, so that they can go do further, do more for themselves. Yeah, but that would have never happened had my sponsor never done that for me. He taught me how to give and taught me how to look for it.
Well, that's great. Ben, we could just go on and on and on. I mean, I haven't even begun to touch all of my notes and everything like that. You're a fascinating person. You're a great human being. And my life is better just by knowing you and by sharing this message out there. And I hope it gives somebody some hope, somebody that's maybe sitting on a bench somewhere or in a bad situation. Who you spend time with matters. And we've been blessed to have a little bit of time with you today, Ben. So thank you for all that you do.
Thank you.
So
I appreciate it.
Ben, I know you're a professional realtor in the Portland area. And how can people get in touch with you? If I know you're a speaker, an author, and all that kind of good stuff, and doing good things. And so how do people get a hold of you if they have any questions or needs or whatever? I know you're also an author. You wrote the book. What is it? The Long Run or?
The Long Run, yeah.
Awesome.
benandrews.com. That's the mothership. benandrews.com. I've got all my social handles there. You can follow me and I'll follow you back and get to know each other.
Awesome. Well, thank you very much, Ben, and continued success for you. And what a great day it's been to, talk a little bit and share some of the vulnerability and the realities of life, the vicissitudes of life that come our way. And we have a choice, don't we? We can choose whichever way we want to go. It's 100% up to us, the decisions we make.
Yep. Thank you much, Slade. I appreciate you having me on.
We'd like to thank our guests for sharing a part of their experience with us on this episode of Why Not You? Also, we'd like to thank Mix It 6 Studios for producing, editing, mixing, and creating our great music for this podcast. But most importantly, we'd like to thank you for listening. Be sure to leave a review on your favorite podcast platform. Also, be sure to subscribe so you don't miss our next episode of Why Not You? See you next time.